Well, our first guests truly understand what the budget crisis is doing to area schools. Don Raleigh, superintendent of Pryor Schools, and John Cox, who is the Peggs County School Superintendent. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Good to have you guys here. May I call you by your first name, or do you want to
John
use
is fine.
Okay. Gentlemen, I have to tell you, Oklahoma is in a world of hurt. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but it seems as though I don't know what schools are going to do. How bad are you folks being impacted with the budget cuts?
I think now it's down to real people. Before we could kind of look at programs and shift personnel around, but now it's really down to the lives of people, and you know, it's affecting all of us all across the state. I get comments from school superintendents that they're having to reduce staff. A lot of schools are looking at riffing at the end of this year.
At what?
At riffing, reduction in force.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so the impact is we're going to have larger class sizes from it and less individual instruction. So in our case, our cut has been about 4 teachers that we're going to have to look at and have been looking at reducing our staff. So it comes down to people now, and the net effect on that is that it's going to hurt a child. And so that's kind of where we're at. What's best for a child?
What about your area?
Well, and I've been a superintendent now in my 8th year. Since 2008 when I became a superintendent. It's been interesting that every year since then we've been in budget crisis. We've never had a situation in which we've really had the funds we've needed. We've always dealt with cuts and cuts and cuts. What the challenge has been is we've all kind of came out of the cuts of the Great Recession and kind of just stabilized a little bit, but we really never were able to add back what we needed. And now suddenly we're here looking at maybe even more of a cut than we saw back in 07, 08, 09. So it's for all districts across the state, there's a lot of worry. Our district, because we're locally funded a little bit more than maybe others, you know, some schools are funded by the state much more than others. There's an equalization in the formula. Those schools that are heavily on state aid, they're going to take a huge cut. For our district, who wasn't, we would be looking at around a $450,000 cut for this year. Locally funded, it's going to be less than that for us. So we're going to be a little more insulated than some others, but every district superintendent I talk to around the area, they're very concerned. It's the potential of multiple teachers and trying to do something in the middle of this year when we already have a budget set, we've already got our contracts made. There's no way to do anything right now except take a hit with your budget.
You know, years ago when Henry Bellman was governor, he and I had a long conversation one night at a function. We were sitting at the same table, and he said, you know, Oklahoma has got to come to grips with the fact that we have more than one industry and we need others. At the time, American Airlines was huge, and oil, of course, was big business, and farming was going great guns. But he said, we need to diversify. And it's never happened. No one's ever led the charge. But it seems like something's going to happen to help get money back into the coffers to help the schools out, because we're not going to see the state improve in terms of business until we start to promote education. That's
Agreed.
what they're looking for, you know, before they ever come in. Joy Hoffmeister, the state school superintendent, is very concerned about the new voucher programs that they're talking about. That'll impact your schools too when they take money from your schools to pour into the voucher programs, won't it?
Absolutely. We have one bucket of money, and once they start taking the money out of there for vouchers, it'll just decrease that bucket. So hopefully today we've heard good news that they may not hear it today. That's what we've heard from the Senate. So we're hoping that is true, but we're really concerned about that as much as consolidation, because there may be schools out there that will just kind of bleed out.
Now we're hearing this on what, today's the 10th.
Yes.
So we're hearing that today, and by the time the folks see this next time around, when it's rerun, the whole picture may have changed.
Agreed. Well, the voucher system, though, you know, people talk about it, and it's different paradigms. They're looking at things differently. For school people, we already see that there's choice out there. There's always the same statement that we need to have school choice. Parents can take their students right now and homeschool them. They can go to private schools. Public education is the backbone of why our country became great. We all pay for roads and prisons and schools and things like that. That's part of the agreement that we make to make our society where we want it to be. That's something that has to happen. And by doing this, what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of problems. We talk about all the time about they don't want to do tax breaks and tax incentives that they can't put a dollar sign on, that they don't know how much it's going to cost. This bill right now, the bills that are in front of us on vouchers, they really don't know how much it's going to cost. We could have students that were in homeschool right now coming into the system that have never been in the public system, pulling that money out. It could be private school students that have never been in a regular public school coming into the system, pulling that money off. Our concern too is what happens if a student comes in and they say, you know what, I want the voucher. They take the money and they're there for 3 months at home or in a private school, and they come back and say, you know what, I'm done. I really don't want to do that. I want to go back to the public school. Well, guess what? We would have to take them.
But
And we wouldn't have any money
with
for
them.
it. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of things that we're concerned about that
That's
I don't
what Joy
think-
Hutt was talking about
Right.
when she said it could cost us anywhere from $6 million to, I think she said, was it $68 million?
Yeah, I think, yes.
Yeah.
And that's a total maybe for 1 year. Who knows how long over time it could continue to be even worse as we go through this. And I think it's just Pandora's box. I think it opens up things that they really haven't thought through and explained, and that's scary for us.
And they're still going to go ahead with the tax cut.
Yes.
All right. As of today, as of this morning, they are talking about dipping into the rainy day fund. And according to the figures I read, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page on there, public schools would get $51 million, and the Department of Corrections $27.5 million. I think Hoffmeister asked for 52 or 54 million. 51 is better than none.
Right.
Is that going to help alleviate the pressure?
I'm appreciative that they're looking at doing that, and actually we're down 109 million since January. So this gets us close to
And this is your
half.
district, right?
Well, this is for the entire state.
Okay.
Down 109 million since January. So I'm really appreciative of what they're doing, but I think in the future, and superintendents and schools always look to the future to see what we're going to do. So with the 1 billion shortfall that we're looking at for next year, it's even going to decrease our funds even more. So you were talking about trying to find a steady stream of revenue. That's something that really has to be looked back, whether it's taking away the tax incentives of some groups or just seeing what we can do to shore up money for public ed. But it's just not the impact that it has right now on us, but it's the future impact when it's compounded every year.
Are parents starting to talk to you about it?
I think locally, I think that's always happened. And here's what has been common, it's been made. A lot of times people don't recognize the problem because schools make adjustments. We do with what we have to do. Our teachers step up, they take on extra duties, they do the things they need to do to keep the kids where they need to be and to provide the services. So parents sometimes may not even feel the impact because our staff are so great, they step up and we address it. And hopefully we've managed that, the different cuts and handle it before. As we go forward, it's going to get to the point where we can't do that, and we're going to be cutting people. 80-95% of most districts, their payroll is their entire budget. So when you look at those things, the only thing you have left to cut is people. And when we start cutting people and programs and services, I've heard things I've never heard in the 8 years I've been involved as a superintendent. We're talking transportation, we're talking programs that were never even considered before, things that really would put a hurt on our schools and definitely hurt our kids. They're now on the table.
And now they're talking about cutting back to 4 days a week and taking away the school buses. And I tell you what, the domino effect of that is unimaginable. I don't think they even realize how that will impact business, how it's going to impact traffic problems, how and it was like 6 years ago when I first heard the rumbles of teachers having to buy their own supplies for the classroom. It's not right. Anyway, thank you all for coming in. We'll cross our fingers and hope that this juncture we're about to run head on into, we can survive. And I'm really grateful for you taking the time out of your schedules.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate you
very
having
much.
us. Yes.
All right, coming up, we're going to promote a concept that they say could help all of Oklahoma. And Lord knows we need it. That's next when Perspectives continues.